Why you're not losing weight right now on a plant-based diet. I'm Ryan Adams from naturalweightlossmastery.com, and in this short video I'm going to share 8 common reasons, things I see time and time again, as to why the scales might not be budging right now. If you're an avid follower of me on Instagram, there might be a bit of overlap here because what I'm about to share is actually from a recent Instagram post. If you're not following me on Instagram, disgraceful. It's at Ryan Adams UK if you want to join me there. Number 1, too many processed versus whole foods. Whole foods tend to have a lower calorie density. Note I say tend, it's not always the case, but they tend to have a lower calorie density, tend to have higher fiber content. Now, don't get me wrong, there are lots of processed foods, quite a substantial list actually, that are acceptable, that absolutely, in my assessment, can be part of a healthy and weight loss encouraging diet. But, again, if you're having, quote unquote, too many of them, and then we could debate what too many looks like, but if you're having lots of them anyway, you could be leaving some proverbial money on the table from a weight loss perspective. You might not be losing weight as fast as if you were eating, more whole food equivalents. So I'm thinking things like the whole wheat or the bean pastas, whole wheat bread, rye, rice noodles, some cereals like bran flakes and shredded wheat. You folks, if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen my YouTube videos, I'm sure, before. I have some of this stuff, but it's not a massive part of my diet. I tend to stick to more intact foods anyway on the whole. And I do have these things from time to time, I do have these things fairly regularly. But if you are looking to slim down and nothing's really going for you right now, nothing's really budging in terms of the scales, then it might be worth, if you're having pasta once a day, if you're having a couple of slices of bread a day, it might be worth just switching to more whole foods, seeing if that makes a difference. Number 2, high fat intake, nuts, seeds, avocados, coconut, olives, etc. Again, some of these things, to various degrees, I would say coconut is sometimes an exception because it's high in saturated fat, but some of these things can be, again, part of a healthy and weight loss encouraging diet. A lot of vegans and plant-based dieters going crazy with things like nut butter. The calorie density of some of these fat-rich plant foods, not to mention heavily processed ones like nut butters, they are astronomical. They will shock you if you read the back of a packet. If you look at the calories in a bag of cashew nuts, or just 30 grams, 100 grams of cashew nuts, your mind will be blown if you're not used to looking at nutritional labels, folks. It's really quite surprising. So yeah, a lot of these foods have good vitamins and minerals in them, so quote unquote we can objectively call them health foods, but they could be really slowing down the scale. 1, because of the high calorie density, and 2, because fat is the least slimming macronutrient in my assessment, okay, behind carbohydrates and protein. The way that fat is processed in the body differs massively from the aforementioned, especially carbohydrates, which surprisingly are very advantageous from a weight loss perspective. So it's not that you need to eliminate these fat-rich plant foods altogether, just be very mindful of them, I would say. Number 3, you could be eating well but overeating. Yes, this is possible to do on a plant-based diet. But Ryan, I thought I could eat as much as I want, as long as it was plant foods, I was going to lose weight. No, folks, no. There is a line to be drawn. What I would say on this is that it is harder. It does look like it's harder to overeat, on a plant-based diet versus other diets. It really does look like that's the case because of the low calorie density, because of the satiation element, because of the vitamin and minerals, the nutrient quality of these plant foods, those hunger signals and the way the body works in that regard. It does seem, though, it's very hard to overeat on a plant-based diet for lots of people, but it's not impossible. I've seen it time and time again. People making the right choices, but not managing their portions well enough and simply over-consuming from a calorie perspective. So think about that too, of course. Number 4, no or little exercise. That probably needs no explanation. The only thing I will say is, again, lots of plant-based dieters have it in their heads that it's not about exercise whatsoever and it's really about the nutrition. I would agree with the sentiment. It is largely about the nutrition. The difference is it's largely about nutrition, not all about nutrition. Exercise can really help speed things up on the scale. Again, we could then get into a debate about what sort of exercise is better. I would make an argument for cardio over weight training because the calorie burn is advantageous. But again, depends what type of cardio, depends what type of weight training and so on. That's just a rule of thumb. So yeah, get some cardio in there, I would say. But just, folks, for those of you that aren't doing much exercise right now, just do some. Please get moving. It could really break you through. Number 5. Occasional but damaging binge eating habits. This can of course really slow things down, these sprees. I'm not talking about the occasional like cheat meal or meal out, I'm talking about a fully fledged binge eating habit where you are going on these sprees of consuming, you know, thousands of calories even when you're physically full, to the point where maybe you're feeling rather nauseous. This might only happen once a week, but it could really be derailing your results, folks, so that needs to be ironed out, absolutely. Number 6, lack of consistency because of one or many of the above. So all of the things I've mentioned, these could be things that happen once a week, they could happen 3 times a week, and even though on 4 days of the week, 5 days of the week, or even 2 meals of the day rather, 1 meal of the day, you might be making some good choices. That inconsistency, whether it's to a degree of 10%, 25%, 30%, 50%, it's hard to quantify, isn't it? That could really, really be slowing you down. That's the case with a lot of the people I work with. They come to me, they're already making a lot of the right food choices, already doing some things right in terms of exercise, but the inconsistency is really holding them back. Number 7, poor way of tracking progress, so conclusions aren't as reliable. I suppose this isn't a reason as to why you're not losing weight. This is actually why you're not losing, or this is rather, well, it's the antithesis to that, but I believe it or not, I see this loads. Lots of people that think they're not losing weight, but they actually are. Or, sorry, they might not be losing weight, but they could indeed be losing fat. And there's a litany of reasons for this. I can't go on and on in this video. This is a separate video. It's a good bit of video. That's a good bit of video idea content for me there. I should make a note of that. So video, stay tuned for that video coming up on that soon. But honestly, I see this so many times, people just stepping on the scale randomly, or maybe the next time they happen to be at the gym, which might have been like 9 days before the other time, and it might be at 6 p.m. versus last time they weighed at the gym, which was 7 a.m. And they've got a bunch of food and fluids in them now, and they're making these conclusions without having a good way of measuring your progress. Folks, what I stress to you is you must be weighing frequently, you must be writing that down. I think you should weigh in pounds versus kilograms for accuracy, you get that extra number there. I think you should also weigh, this might sound outrageously neurotic to some of you, you should weigh, to decimal points as well. So you're not just seeing 165 pounds, but rather 165.6 pounds. You've got to get that accuracy. I strongly recommend, as all my clients use, an averaging system where you take a couple of numbers and you create a weekly average. Very smart move there. That way you just add solidity to your conclusions. The body goes through all these fluctuations, folks, whether it's because of menstruation, sodium retention, sodium intake, which leads to greater water retention, which can look like your weight's gone up or look like your weight hasn't gone down. Food volume, just the amount of food in your system. Maybe one night you ate later than you usually do. That can affect things on the scale a little bit the next day. The body naturally fluctuates, but people put so much emphasis on what the number says on the scale, they think they're not losing weight. Are you making premature conclusions? That's a good question. And finally, number 8, underlying health conditions or hormonal issues which need fixing, they need addressing, as well as your weight loss efforts. That's something you need to go and look into, of course, as well. So they're common reasons, folks. Let me know which of these resonate with you down below. What do you think you're falling victim to right now? What do you think is holding you back? For more weight loss resources, head over to naturalweightlossmastery.com. Thanks for your time today.